Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, predicting what this Hurricanes depth chart is going to look like come week one of the 2024 season. Now, we've taken deep dives into every single position room for this Hurricanes program, have talked about the position battles, haven't really given our full predictions on how these position battles shake out. Want to give those to you guys right now. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, and as always, just want to say, thank you to you guys and a massive shout out to the Miami Hurricane fans. You guys continue to show a ton of love, a ton of support. Cannot thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And much more importantly, the best part about doing these kind of episodes is learning from you guys. Would love to hear some names that you guys have as starters that I might have left off my list. I went back and forth with multiple different positions when I have my depth chart in front of me. So let me know in the comment section how you guys are feeling. Again, it is a blast. I learn from you guys. I love talking ball with you guys in the comment section. So let me know. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I mean, off the top, this depth chart that we have in front of us right now, the one I have on my note sheet is the one with the transfers. It's my predictions. The one that we see on the screen doesn't have the true freshmen, doesn't have the transfer additions. And I'll say this right now, I got a lot of true freshmen that are injected into this starting lineup. So bear with me on that. We'll fill it out as we go along. The quarterback spot, right? That's a no-brainer. We're going Cam Ward. And I think what excites me the most, and this is about the highest I've been on this Hurricanes program in a while, and I was pretty high on them going into last year. And I think the real story was you guys heard me say this a lot during the 2023 season. That was a very good Miami Hurricanes team, top for bottom. But when you don't have consistent quarterback play, it's really hard to win those big games. And I think what makes me so excited about this Hurricanes team in 2024 is this depth chart is just about as talented, if not more talented. It's certainly deeper. But what I think sets this team apart is they have quarterback play that is going to be some of the best in the country. Now, getting into the more interesting conversation I think you can have is, what does this wide receiver room shake out to be? And I hear a lot of Miami Hurricane fans saying we need a wide receiver one in the transfer portal. I don't know how many better wide receivers that you can find in the country than Xavier Restrepo. And I get he's not necessarily the prototypical quote-unquote wide receiver one, but you talk about top 10 wide receivers in the country. I'm not sure if you're seeing many lists that are leaving out what Xavier Restrepo has done over the last couple of years. And I think what excites me the most about what this offense looks like specifically with Xavier Restrepo is Cam Ward loves to go to his slot wide receivers. We saw that all over the Washington State film. Now, Cam Ward comes to Miami, and he has one of, if not the best slot wide receiver in the country in Xavier Restrepo. In the preseason, I like to take a look at what are the best quarterback wide receiver batteries that we're going to see. I don't know how many better batteries you're going to see than Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo heading into 2024. I'm really excited about that connection. Now, on the boundary, I have Jacoby George still as a starter. I think what excites me the most about him is I think he was probably the guy that was hurt the most in terms of the lack of consistency they had at the quarterback spot. But when you go back to the film, Jacoby George and what he can do after the catch is truly, it's special. And now he's going into the senior year. I think the one word that you want to see from Jacoby George in 2024 is consistency, right? We've seen the flashes. We know what he's capable of. Now I want to see you play at your highest level on a more consistent basis, right? Eliminate the focus drops, eliminate the stupid mistakes. And Jacoby George can do that. You're looking at another very good wide receiver in this room. Now, the last starting wide receiver, the more I read the spring practice notes, the more I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. And I'm going to go JoJo Trader as our starting wide receiver. This is a guy that not only is really good after the catch, but you see the movement skills from some of the clips that you see in spring practice, or just go back and watch the senior film. This is a guy that is not just a freak athlete. He's a very polished wide receiver. And I think that's what excites me the most. And I think that's why I'm so confident that he's going to get on the field as a freshman. Many of you guys know by now I'm not necessarily a guy that's banging the table to start true freshmen, but I think JoJo Trader's a little bit different. And you talk about a different caliber athlete at this wide receiver room. In fact, an athlete that I don't think Miami has seen in that wide receiver room in a really long time. I think that's JoJo Trader. So I have Xavier Restrepo on the inside, Jacoby George and JoJo Trader on the outside, and that's not necessarily a knock on a guy like Isaiah Horton. And I think Ray Joseph probably gets on the field a lot as well, but if you're asking me for my starting three wide receivers, that's how it shakes out. You go to the running back room. This is going to be another run. It's a room that's going to be a committee. And that's exactly how you want a running back room to look. Yes, you want an alpha dog as your running back. And I think that certainly can be Mark Fletcher. But you want multiple guys that you have confidence in terms of toting the rock. Mark Fletcher, Henry Parris. I thought Jay Allen actually played some really good football. And you talk about a guy like Jordan Lyle or Chris Johnson, the burner. A lot of different wide receiver or running backs, with a lot of different skill sets. And I think that's what excites you the most about this Hurricanes running back room. But I'm not going to cop out. I'm going to give you guys my starting running back, and that's Mark Fletcher. I think he leads this team in carries. I think he leads this team in rushing yards. Give me Mark Fletcher as the running back one. Now the tight end position. I'm going to go with a little bit of a curveball here, and I'm going to go Riley Williams going into his second year. And the reason I'm going Riley Williams is, one, I was extremely impressed with what Riley Williams could do as a blocker, as a freshman, right? We saw the film on Riley Williams coming out of high school. This is a guy that is a natural pass catcher. He's a big body that moves fluidly. I think he can be a weapon in the passing attack, but I think set Riley Williams apart, and what I am so excited for him in terms of going into year two is you don't normally see freshman tight ends come in and block like Riley Williams did. So you got a good blocker, and I think you got a guy with some massive upside as a pass catcher. Now, I will say Elijah Arroyo certainly excites me, but I want to see it before I believe it. I'm going to go with Riley Williams, and I don't think it's crazy to say Riley Williams might have a higher upside than Elijah Arroyo as well. Last position group we have to talk about is the offensive line. Now, there are not a lot of questions that we have. We'll get out of the way the kind of bona fide starters, right? Jalen Rivers at left tackle. I think center Zach Carpenter, the transfer from Indiana. Inez Cooper, Francis Mauigoa on the other side. I think that one question we have is, all right, how is that left guard position going to look? I know I read the message boards. Lou Cristobal getting work with the ones during spring camp. That I would be extremely surprised if that holds until 2024 week one. I think you got Samson Okunlola. That's the guy I have locked in at that left guard spot. And I think at the end of the day, you look at what you have to do on the offensive line, and that is all about getting your best five players on the field. And yes, is Samson Okunlola a tackle? Certainly is. I think he has a future playing tackle at the college football level. But when you have Jalen Rivers and Francis Mauigoa, it's hard to get on the field as a tackle. And so I think you got to try to get a guy like Samson Okunlola on the field. And let's just be kind of honest. Like, Lou Cristobal is not a Power 5 starting offensive lineman. You guys know I don't drag players consistently on this podcast. But Lou Cristobal, he's a backup guy. And I think Samson Okunlola gives exactly what Miami needs on that offensive line. You talk about what Mario Cristobal wants to do, what the DNA is going to be of this offense. Yes, you have Cam Ward. Yes, you have really good receivers. They're going to want to control the line of scrimmage. They're going to want to run the football. And I think Samson Okunlola, with the power that he has, is certainly going to be a guy that fits exactly what the Hurricanes want to do on that offensive line. Give me Pancake Honcho starting as your left guard. Now, going to the defensive side of the football and starting with this defensive line, this is going to be a really interesting unit to see how it shakes out. And I think what excites me the most about this Hurricanes defensive line is not necessarily the star talent, in which you certainly have star talent, right? Ruben Bain is going to be an All-American caliber player. I think Akeem Mesidor is an All-ACC guy when healthy. You go back to the 2022 film, he was very good. But I think what excites me the most about this defensive line is the depth and rotation that they're going to have. And you go across the country and you look at some of the best defensive lines over the last couple of years. Michigan in 2023, Georgia in 2022 and 2021. What was so special about those offensive lines is, yes, they had the star talent, but they had depth. They could rotate guys in and out through 4 quarters, in and out through 15 games of the season. That's what Miami has heading into 2024. So now predicting my starting defensive line, you got Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain on the outside. I think you're looking at 2 really good edge rushers there who are also phenomenal in the run game. And you have guys like Jaden Wayne, like Nigel Lee Kelly, like Marquise Leifa as a true freshman that I think could certainly come in and play some really good reps. But those are going to be your starters. And then on the inside, I'm going to go Jared Harrison Hunt. And I think it's really easy to get caught up in true freshman Justin Scott, some guys in the transfer portal. Jared Harrison Hunt, you have to give him all the credit in the world. He kind of paid his dues. I think he consistently has gotten better. That was by far the best football that we've seen from Jared Harrison Hunt in 2023. I think he's going to be one of your starters on the inside. The other starter, I'm going to go with CJ Clark, a guy that I think is elite in the run game. And then on those third and long situations, then you see a guy like Justin Scott or Marley Cook come in and really get after it. But again, the depth that they have on the inside, very intriguing. I think this defensive line is poised to be one of the more dominant groups that we see in the country. Moving to that linebacker spot, I don't think there's many question marks here. I think if you have a question mark about this linebacker room, it's a little bit more the depth than it is your starting guys. Francisco Mauigoa is an absolute stud at that linebacker spot. I thought it was massive to get him back for one more year. And then Wesley Bissainthe played some really good football in 2023. I think those are your starting linebackers. And I think the question is, what does the depth look behind those linebackers? Is it a true freshman like Cam Pruitt? Is it Chase Smith, who's kind of paid his dues within this program? That's more the question that I have, because I think you got two bona fide starters at that linebacker spot. And then the last really tricky conversation, and this is where I would really like to hear from the Hurricane fans in terms of, all right, how do we put together this secondary? And I'll say this before we get into it. This is probably the group. There's not a lot of holes in this Hurricanes roster. I've been pretty vocal about that. If there is one thing I have a lot of question marks about, it is in the defensive back room. Now, they're really hurt heading into spring practice. Not a lot of guys are practicing, but I don't think the experience nor the depth is there. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Hurricanes go out to make a big splash in that defensive back room. But getting into my projected starters right now before they add any transfers, on the outside, I think you have Daryl Porter and Damari Brown. Now, they have Damari Brown as a nickel on the screen. He's too long and athletic to play in the nickel. I think you're looking at a really, really good boundary cornerback. I think that's probably where he's most comfortable in. So Daryl Porter and Damari Brown on your outside. I'm going to go with Misha Powell as your nickel back. He played a lot of nickel for Washington. I think what's so good about Misha Powell, and I think we're going to do a film breakdown on him, is he can do so many different things. And you look at Miami maybe in a little bit of a tricky spot in the secondary. You got a guy like Misha Powell who's played so much football at so many different positions. That's massive for the Hurricanes heading into 2024. Now, at the safety spot, I'm going to go with two newcomers, right? Savion Riley coming over from Vanderbilt. I think he is super talented. I think he physically checks off a lot of boxes. And then I'm going to go with the true freshman, Zaquan Patterson. Very similar conversation to JoJo Trader. I think, one, Zaquan Patterson is physically ready to play. And I think that's the two things that really inhibit true freshmen from playing a lot early is, one, the physicality of the game, right? Do they need to put on weight? Do they need to change what their body looks like? They might have all the athleticism in the world, but they got to put on the weight. That normally keeps them off the field. And more importantly, knowing the playbook. But you look at Zaquan Patterson and you look at what's special about Zaquan Patterson. One, very physically developed, and two, phenomenal instincts. This guy is a very smart football player that I think allows him to get on the field. And again, there's a lot of opportunity to get playing time at that safety position. I think Zaquan Patterson is going to be a very hard guy to keep off the field for the Hurricanes. That'll do it for my projected starting lineup for the Hurricanes heading into 2024. Would love to hear from you guys on where I got it wrong, what some players that I might be sleeping on heading into 2024. Appreciate you guys, as always, for rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.